All right, we are live. Okay, so first off, everybody had an opportunity to read the lesson, correct? Or this theme, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'll tell you, this one hits really close to home for me for the reason that I work in warehouses. I've worked in logistical field like this most of my life, and so safety is definitely something that I see as important. So with that, like I'll pull on some of that, and I hope you guys do the same as we talk about it. So we're gonna go right into the nitty gritty question. I'm glad it was the one that came first because I'd be asked it anyway. And if you were Harris, would you fire the praise stick?
Yes.
Why?
Because he'd already been told 3 times. He knew that there were space safety procedures in place. And, you know, doesn't matter if he's been there forever and his family's worked there forever. If he doesn't want to follow the rules, then, he wants to put people's lives in danger, then he needs to be fired.
Okay. Anybody else?
Is
See,
that blunt?
um, I thought that maybe like even just like a demotion or a suspension or something, just to show the seriousness of it, but maybe not. Because it said that like all the employees under him really respected him, and that it was going to cause some problems there. So maybe just to like suspend him or demote him, or like not necessarily fire him, but some other kind of disciplinary action to show that you were serious.
Anybody else have an idea? Get it?
No, I was thinking kind of, they didn't give any information on what they have done this far to him, like Marilee had said, if there was any type of suspension, write-ups, anything like that. And the other thing I was looking at, it didn't, from my recollection, didn't say that each of these incidences were the same incidences. They could have been different incidences. So I just don't have that kind of information to make a solid decision. But I think if he has not been reprimanded or some kind of formal write-up, that you just can't outright fire him.
I do believe the writing said something to the effect of he had been reprimanded for this type of situation.
The third
I
incident.
personally, I'm on the fence. The reality of it is yes, this is a safety issue, and yes, Alcoa does make a big point of safety. Um, do I think he should be fired? Not necessarily, but I do believe he should be making an example of. Because, like I know in my situation, I dealt with it a lot this week. We use a particular type of knife that's a safety knife. Yeah, they're garbage, they're terrible, everything else, but that's what we're required to use by the company that we work for. And I had to be the bad guy with a lot of these guys that have been working for our company for less than 3 weeks and explain to them, guys, you have to use these. Guys, you have to use these. To the point that I actually had to take one of the guys' knives away, and he went to the manager and complained about me. And then he got kindly reprimanded, saying, "No, we brought him in for his expertise. He's telling you to do it. Don't ask any questions. Do it." Being a manager and being the one on the line for everybody underneath you, that's a rough call. But I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah, I was just looking up the email here that was sent. And it says, last night, September 5th, 1991, Stepanek directed Carl Olson, an electrician, to repair an electrical conduit. Repair required Olson to work way too close to put line in a congested area. While making the repair, he slipped on some loose material and stuck his hand to catch himself in the fall. Olson suffered a second-degree burn to his arm and forearm and dislocated his shoulder. Stepanek is a good supervisor, and his crew is one of my best, but this is the third incident like this in the last year. He should never have sent Olson in there without taking some precautions. I warned Ned several times, but he just hasn't gotten the message. I think it is time to make it clear that safety violations won't be tolerated. I think Ned should be fired. So it sounds like he's got some warnings, But there has never been anything more than that. Let's say an unpaid day or, suspension, something like that. I think firing him at this point is a little drastic.
But you also have to think of the legal end of it too. This man can say, well, he made me go in there to do this. He didn't tell me to do this or that, and so the um, the company could lose a lot of money in legal fees and payouts.
Well, and I think, like, at what point does an employee's life become more important than another employee's reputation? I mean, this supervisor he's got a great reputation and he's got a great team, but if he's putting other people's lives in danger, because it said that fatalities at Alcoa were not like totally unheard of.
No.
I mean, I think that you are onto a point of liability, like what it costs. Like, I even had this conversation with my boss about the knife situation, and I was like, am I being too hard on him? And my boss said, absolutely not, because when this kid cuts himself, it's $50,000 for lawyer fees and for this and for that. He's like, at that point, this company is, or this business, or this current location won't be profitable for 3 years if people keep getting hurt. He's like, no, there's a reason that we do these things. And he said, and honestly, I would write you up if you wanted to use it. So
You have
safety,
you have to protect the employee and the company, both.
absolutely.
I agree. I think that's absolutely true. But like I said, I just don't know to the extent of what his punishment has been other than just a couple of verbal warnings.
Well, maybe suspension would be good first, but after that, I would be like, nope, you can't. You're not going to risk the company because you don't want to follow the rules.
I agree. Something a little less drastic than firing, but get the message across. And if it doesn't get across, he needs to go.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. So that actually answered like all the other little questions about that part that they wanted us to ask. So I perfectly content with moving on. So the next part of it says that they want us to like break into groups. I'm not going to do that. A, since there's only so few of us, and also because of like time, we're just all going to do it together because most of it all flows right together. In the reading, they want us to compare Exhibit 3 and Exhibit 7 and answer the following question. Well, when safety improves, does productivity decrease? It does then find out its data. And then they want us to compare the numbers from 3 to 7 and see if it's better if it's going up or going down.
When safety improved, does productivity improve?
Which we all know if we've done the readings and all that, I mean, in all reality, it did go up. The productivity went up as safety harnessed itself.
Okay.
So, does anybody have any thoughts as they're looking at these? If anybody's already started
Here,
doing that?
I'll figure them out real quick.
Okay.
Ah. Nope.
To give you a little bit of help, from in 1987, um,
The second. Okay.
I'm sorry, say what you were saying?
No, go ahead. I'm still working things out.
It says in 1987, it was 39.9 hours per ton. So then, August 1999 or 1991.
Okay, their numbers are off. Let's see.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, the example they have on there is wrong.
Go on ahead and give us the numbers you're coming up with. I trust those more.
Well, it went up into, let's see. Okay, so it takes 26 hours to produce 1 ton of aluminum.
Okay. That was 87 or 91?
Oh, and we're supposed to do, let's see.
Yeah, because they're talking about the what's happened with the production versus injuries per hour work.
In 91, it took 20, it went 29.61 in 91. Or in January of 91. $31 in July. Well, you can't do that way.
So, if I'm understanding this question correctly, like, are we just supposed to, like, analyze how productivity was affected by the amount of injuries?
Yeah, what it basically asks us, the productivity has gone up if they've done the safety measures. Because obviously in 1987, the safety wasn't as good. And then as it moved into, 1991, it got significantly better. Like total working average in August, or total serious injuries in 1991 was 5.45. And that dropped down 3% from 1987. I mean, that's pretty big.
So,
What do you
just
think about
looking generally at these numbers, productivity is going up and the amount of work injuries is going down. So it seems like with safety, productivity is being boosted.
Absolutely. It's like, these guys talk about how, oh, it's going to make me look bad that our forklifts are going 4 miles an hour after the fatality. But the reality of it is, if it's presenting a safer workplace, things are moving faster. I think so often, especially in a plant like this, these guys are going as fast as they can, trying to get things done. And I think whenever they slows it down, they force them to slow it down, their productivity is going up, they're not throwing as much away, they're actually paying attention to what they're trying to do. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah. So does that answer the question that we were looking at? I mean, do we really need to like figure numbers and stuff? Or
No,
Well,
that's pretty much.
it looks like the safety went down except for in July. It went back up for some reason. July of 1991.
Yeah,
Even
it did
though
pop up a little bit. But in reality, it's going to.
even though production had gone up January through August, something must have happened in July for it to pop back up there.
That could have been
July
one.
didn't have as many hours as August.
That could be part of it as well. You know what? There are such things as freak accidents in a factory, and that definitely could have bounced it a little bit. So yeah, but that's essentially what I believe that this is looking for is the safety and productivity atmosphere. So we answered that. So let's go on to the next one. Okay, look at Exhibit 6 and go through the list of sample injuries. Look for the common themes and causes. Then the next question part of it would be, what can you learn about safety and mission value from this list? And then we'd be prepared to share our findings with each other. Let's go to Exhibit 6.
Look for common themes and causes. This looks like slipping and falling, and these seem to be the main.
That's what I'm noticing as well. as I read those, like obviously the problems went on more because of where they fall.
Lost footing.
What do you think, Janet?
That's what I'm thinking also. it's really minor stuff like just slipping and falling or maybe tripping. I don't think there's like huge major incidences on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think there were only two on this that made a comment that they were going to be without a day, out a day or whatever have you. But both of those seem to be simple things to consider. Absolutely. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
You're just never ever going to free any business, any home, any place of accidents. They're just going to happen. You know, even with the best safety guards and you trying to be very, very careful, it's something's still going to happen. Just trying to limit them and avoid major accidents is the real goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like there's 7 cases of either slipping on something or something they were holding, slipped, and fell and hit them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 7. So guess they got to get better work shoes. Non-slip. Which I don't think anywhere anyway.
I think that goes into like keeping their work area clean too, because some of them like they stepped on something that shouldn't have been there and slipped. So just keeping the work area clean would help too.
I think you're absolutely correct. So you're not going to be able to avoid every problem, especially in a workplace like that. I mean, you know, it takes nothing to mess up. So, like when I saw those numbers, like even from the get-go, I was surprised how good they were. But you know, obviously they could get better. So the next couple questions about these are: what do we think about what we've seen? Is anybody surprised by what they saw?
No. I think once everybody starts following the rules and following safety procedures, it might be rough at first. Productivity might go down just a little bit, but once everybody gets into the groove of it, you know, then they don't have to stop because somebody got hurt or, you know, to waste time there, and it just they can just move. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I think that's actually a brilliant point that I have thought about. And time wasted when somebody gets hurt is definitely worse than that of just doing it safely the first time. I had an experience not too long ago that kind of happened. One of my guys chose not to get a ladder and decided to climb up some shelving instead. And, you know, it only takes him 10 seconds to go grab a ladder, and, you know, he just got back to work last week because he fell down and hurt himself.
Uh-huh.
So, there are things that have to be done.
Well, on page 7, they were complaining about the lockout and tagout procedure.
Yeah.
And so they said it's a pain in the neck and all for a repair that will take 5 seconds. And then the lady responded and said, "That may be true, but I ask you this: how long does it take to get hurt? Half a second? If somebody turns that machine on?"
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
And then you're injured for life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is the next one. I want everybody to take a chance to think about this and really give us a good answer. It's like, what type of problem that they have do you think would be the easiest to solve? And are they expensive ones that involve people's behavior? So like this pretty much goes right back to the firing of the person. Like, well, what's the easiest way to go about it? What could be avoided? Like we've already talked about, you know, cleaning up after yourself, stuff like that. But is that really a problem, or do you think you can go deeper than that?
Joe, I didn't understand what you said.
Okay, let me read it again. It says, which type of problem do you think is the easiest to solve? The ones that they're expensive, or the ones that involve people's behavior? And talking about safety.
Oh, okay.
People's behavior that's kind of hard to change. You know, they get into a routine and they've been doing it, and then you ask them, you need to change this. A lot of times you're going to find obstinate. So I think sometimes people's behavior is the hardest to deal with.
I
Absolutely.
agree.
I agree. I think that in most cases it's the hardest to deal with. I mean, I've kind of been on both sides of that. Like, at my last job, we had to use a particular kind of knife too, but they didn't order enough for everybody to have their own, and so it was easier to just bring like one of the little cheap ones from home or whatever. Um, and I got reprimanded for it a couple times, but it was just like, well, you didn't provide me with the right equipment, so do you really want me to like bug everybody else and take their knife so that they can't do their job, or do you want me just to solve the problem? And eventually they ended up ordering enough knives, but I've kind of been on both sides of that, and I think that human behavior is one of the hardest things to try to deal with.
I agree. You can spend all the money in the world, but if Eddie over there is choosing to still do things the way, it's not going to change anything. Uh, so definitely. And then the last question of this segment is: what challenges does Mission Valley have against them now going forward with this stuff? I think we already touched on it, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Um,
You know, they said that they had that observation program and they wanted everyone to be trained in it, but they would only choose so many people to do it. And then the reply was, well, you know, getting pressure from their friends not to report them. So it was going to be hard even for those who were chosen to be the observers not to give in to peer pressure. So I think that's a factor that they're going to have to face.
Absolutely.
right.
Okay.
I think
I think
one other one is dealing with supervisors that don't want to get on board with it, or that are having kind of a crummy attitude, because the supervisor is really like, that's going to set the tone for everyone in their department. So I think getting all the supervisors on board and making sure that one's like, what is that guy's name, Sedansky or whatever, making sure that they are made an example of.
absolutely. Uh, Definitely, like I think you guys hit all around the head. I was gonna put my 2 cents in, but you guys have already done it. So we'll go ahead and move into the next step. So this is now like past success versus future challenges. So when I ask these questions, now we're kind of looking toward the future. After August of 1991, it says, "What has Mission Valley done in the past to improve the safety record so much that they have had so few serious injuries compared to other similar companies?"
Behavior. You can put all the safety procedures you want into place, but if people aren't adhering to them, they're not going to work. So I think behavior, mindset.
Absolutely.
I think also that they're looking at the at the health and safety of their employees. They don't want anybody to get hurt, and so they're putting safety over productivity first, which which helps increase productivity.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So a lot of companies won't do that. They're only after that bottom line. They want everything to go fast and get it done, and that's how people get hurt.
Absolutely.
It seems like they're learning from their mistakes too. Like if they notice that the number one problem is falling, that they're doing everything they can to prevent the falling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because when it starts off and talks about that man that got killed, he was talking in a struck by a forklift. He was standing on Mark roadway, and then on page 5 it talks about what they did to prevent that. They had marked pedestrian lines and barriers to keep the people away from the machinery. Slowed down the fork trucks. Put um,
Cranes.
The
crane,
strobe lights.
strobe lights. on top
Strobe
of
lights, absolutely. Yeah, those are definitely specific things that they did to be successful. That's one of the next questions actually as well. Like I mean, I think that hits it right on the head. They actually are trying to put forth a plan to try to fix the problem they have. And
I like the quote when Paul O'Neill became CEO in 1987. O'Neill did not believe that productivity necessitated danger or that accidents and injuries were the natural price people had to pay for meeting certain goals. He believed just the opposite. To focus on safety required comprehensive understanding of manufacturing processes, and that understanding would lead to better and more productive plants. So he stated that safety comes first, and when you put safety first, productivity also follows.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit it right on the head. Now, let's change gears a little bit here now, though. When we're talking about following the obedience and having the law there, and them making their changes, they also made some other rules that people weren't so happy about. Like you said, the speed limit on the forklift being dropped to 4 miles an hour. I got another one. How about wearing the wedding ring?
Mm-hmm.
And actually the paperwork here goes right into it. Like, what would you do if you were told not to wear a wedding ring? I'm in a place where I'm not supposed to wear a wedding ring either. I choose still to wear it, but I'm also not being reprimanded for wearing it. Whereas these guys here, they tell you not to wear it.
I think it depends on what you're doing. I would take it off, and if I had to take mine off because my hand, there's a possibility it could get hooked in some machinery or something, I would take it off and wear it around my neck, or I'd leave it at home. I know I'm married. My husband knows I'm married. I'm not going anywhere. I don't care if anybody bothers me. But I can see how some people would get upset. But for me personally, it wouldn't bother me because I'd rather keep my fingers in my hand, to have a wedding ring to wear on.
Yeah, I've been known to put mine in my pocket. I've been known to put mine in my pocket whenever I'm doing things that I wouldn't do with the ring on.
Well, and I think that that's kind of like a personal choice, and maybe they could just say, like, wear it at your own risk or whatever, like, just to avoid the liability. But I think having the policy there stating why it's important to take it off, most people, I think, would be willing to take it off. I know several mechanics that take theirs off every time they're working on a car for the same reason, that it could get caught on something, or if they smash their finger, like if they smash their hand, there's a good chance they'll have to cut their finger off because their ring is there.
Yeah.
So I think that most people will be willing to do it if they know that it's like an immediate danger.
Yeah. I think it depends on what you're doing, I think.
Absolutely. Any other comments on that? Like I said, that was an interesting one. Like, for me, I choose to wear it, but whenever I'm working with a trash compactor that can crunch me, my ring just happens to make it into my pocket. That's just what I do. So I definitely understand exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So, along with that, we go on, and it's now they want us to talk about these following safety procedures and what we do with them. And it's a point-blank question. And honestly, I'll answer them, and if you guys choose to answer, you can as well. Do you always wear your seatbelt? I'm seeing nods. Okay, good. I'm seeing nods. Yeah, I wish I was better about it, but I'm working on it, so I see a nod.
Oh, Joe? Tell you some stories, You put the
when I'm a passenger,
Joe, do you have kids?
Every time. When I'm driving, not so much.
Do you have kids, Joe?
I don't.
When you have a child and you have to tell them to put their seatbelt on, it gets you in the habit because they say, well, you don't have your seatbelt on, and then you have to do it.
There you go.
I improved a lot once I had a 2-year-old that was taking his car seat buckle off all the time.
Yeah, I had one that I couldn't, my daughter, I couldn't keep her in a car seat, no matter what I did. I ended up stopping a police officer and pulling over and saying, well, you talk to my daughter about that seatbelt because she will not stay in that car seat. Well, he scared her. She stayed in that car seat after that.
That's a good idea. I'll have to remember that. My son is working on it. He climbs out pretty often, so maybe I'll have to do that.
And he told her, he said, I'll take you to jail and you won't see your mommy anymore if you don't stay in that seat. And of course he was trying not to laugh. Like, don't laugh. This isn't funny.
Oh, that's good. Here's another one. Do you text in dangerous places and or driving?
I do
No.
at stoplights. I'll be honest. I do if I'm at a stoplight or a stop sign and like my vehicle is stopped, I will do it. But other than that, no.
I choose not to answer that question.
I talk and drive. I can talk on the phone, but if the traffic's heavy, I don't talk. You know, I
Yeah.
pay attention to what's going on around me. So, but I don't text. I can't do it. I just can't do that. It's just
I don't text. I just have a cell phone that's for emergency, so it doesn't have internet, text, anything. So
I'd be
I'm
lost.
good there.
I
I'd
lost
be
it.
lost.
I can't do any of that stuff.
Okay, so next one. Do you cross the crosswalk?
Yes.
If they're there, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to kind of blow through these a little bit because there's a couple left. Do you use a ladder when needed instead of just using a chair?
No.
Okay,
I
we're all
use-
guilty. We're all guilty. This one's my favorite. Do we drive the speed limit?
Yes.
Usually I do, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unless
I'm
I'm
the only person here that's gonna admit he speeds. All right.
if I'm in a real hurry, then I'll speed. But generally, I try to drive the speed limit. It all changes when you have kids, Joe. It really does.
No, you gotta get some kids, man. You'll change that seatbelt and driving behavior.
You know what? When I speed, my seatbelt's on. Anyway,
And when you have a 16-year-old that goes, "Mom, the speed limit's only 55. How come you're doing 70?"
you know what? Put a
Well,
cork
actually,
in
it'd only be
it.
60. I wouldn't be doing 70 and a 55, but you know, that's just an example.
Yeah, right, Polly.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't. I pick
Yeah, right. Okay. You know, we actually kind of answered the last question here on this too. And if we don't do something in the way, what can we do to change the behavior? And it is. We talked about having kids, whatever. You know, all these things are here. These are all things that they try to have monitored by Alcoa. You know, they want the guys when they're in the forklifts to wear seatbelts. They don't want them texting or on the phone at all. They want the guys obviously across the crosswalks because if they don't, they're going to get ran over by a forklift. They want you to use proper equipment, and they want everybody to go to speed limit. Obviously, they put the governor in there. What can we do to make sure that we're all following those types of things?
Self-discipline.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think self-discipline works into that. What could Mission Valley do though to get people to have that discipline?
You know, they can do all they want, but it has to come from within, right? Motivation. It's not really motivation, it's incentives. You have to motivate yourself.
I think reminding them of consequences would be a big one. Like, I mean, if there are deaths happening in the workplace, I mean, how much reminding do you really need that, like, if you stand in the way of a forklift, you could die?
You will die.
You know, I work in a place where there aren't many rules that will get you fired by one single thing. However, there are a couple that do. In my job in particular, if I was caught being in the wrong, I would lose my job, no questions asked. But I'll tell you, I make sure every single time I walk out of a room, I check those couple key things that can get me fired. And truthfully, I think it's that fear. And fear, I guess, isn't the right word. Fear keeps you honest. It keeps you.
I think
making
it's
sure that you
knowledge.
make sure.
I think
Yeah.
having the knowledge to know the reward of certain behaviors either keeps you from doing it or you will do it, depending on the reward that is offered.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Like I've talked to people left and right as a member of the church. I'm a convert. And they ask me why I choose not to drink alcohol or I choose not to do this stuff. And you know, and honestly, my answer is I'm afraid of the consequence. I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me if I do it. That's why I'm too scared to do it. That's the answer. That's a cultural thing.
Joe, it's because you're LDS and you will get caught.
I will get caught.
You have been taught not to do it, not just by your parents, but by the Lord. And so if you do it being LDS, you will get caught.
Absolutely.
Even if you're hiding in the closet.
That's right. Somebody will walk in and find you in the closet.
Remember, you're never alone. You're always being watched.
You know what? There was always a thing that we said in my house. My dad's a police officer, or well, was a police officer. He actually is recently retired. My brother is one now, but we always said growing up, we weren't afraid of going to jail. We were afraid of coming out.
That's right.
Yep.
So
Yeah, my kids would be like, can you just call my dad? Don't call my mom. Please don't call my mom. Please don't tell her
for
I'm
us,
here.
it was called mom. So, you know, all the stuff the things that Mission Valley can do, and I did, I equated it a little bit to our lives. The things that we choose to do, why we choose to do it. Why do we choose to follow any of the rules? Safety. I mean, there is a spiritual side to that. And that pretty much wraps it all up. It's just the last typical question. What did I do terribly? How bad am I as a failure as a leader? And what can I do to fix my problems next time? Obviously, using a computer is one of them. I don't know how to do that.
Put your seatbelt on while you're driving, Joe.
Okay, I'll start wearing my
Now you have me
seatbelt.
freaking out thinking about you're going to be out there on the road and you're not going to be at the meeting next week because you didn't have your seatbelt on.
I'll wear my seatbelt just for
He
you.
didn't have his seatbelt on, and he was texting and speeding while he didn't have his seatbelt on.
Okay, I never did all three, okay?
Step up, Joe. You're the leader.
That's right. Step up. We want to report.
I'll report next week. Oh. Man, I'll tell you what, our group is great, isn't it? We have fun.
Yeah.
I think.
But on a serious note, what can I do to improve?
I think you did fine.
Yeah, I think it was kind of tough to hear you a couple times, but other than that, I think it's fine. And that might have just been network connection. That might not have been anything you were doing.
Yeah, I think it was all. I'll blame it on the computer because I'm pretty loud.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Joe, I put my earphones in because I always have a hard time hearing you. So it must be your computer. Yeah.
It could be. It could be.
I can hear Janet Marilee really well, but you always kind of like fuzzy. So, but with my earphones, I can hear you.
Well, there you go. I guess I'll have to work on that. Well,
Joe?
good. Okay.
Joe,
Yeah.
I love your enthusiasm. I think you're just a bubbly person. But I really want you around for a long time. And, you know, the little growth on your face looks very macho.
Well, you actually weren't there at the point. I'm going to stop the broadcast, and I'll tell you, I've actually